I'm back with another drugstore video today, and we are doing my #1 favorite in every single category at the drugstore. I saw Abby Young from this video and I thought it was genius. I've done like my top 3 in the past, like my top 3 of a different category, but we're gonna do my #1 every category at the drugstore when it comes to makeup, so let's jump into it. Some of these are newer favorites for me, and some of them are favorites that you have heard me talk about for years, and one that I have been talking about for years is my answer for primer. This is the Hard Candy Sheer Envy Hydrating Primer. It reminds me a bit of the e.l.f. Hydra Grip Primer in terms of the texture, but not only is it more inexpensive than that, it's less expensive than that one, but it also provides a little bit of hydration. So I feel like this is giving me the best of both worlds. It gives me a little bit of moisture, but also gives me a little bit of grip. I feel like my foundation sticks to it really well. I get a little bit more longevity out of the rest of my base products, and it just looks so nice. I'm not a huge primer person though, I will say that. I would say oftentimes I'm skipping primer when I'm doing my base. I don't think of it as a necessity in my own routine. On the days that I am choosing to take that extra step, this is my favorite. But I did want to throw out an honorable mention, and for a few of these categories, I did find a way to cheat the one singular product rule by adding an honorable mention, and I wanted to mention a moisturizer. So this is obviously not a primer, but this is one of my favorite moisturizers from the drugstore. Actually, it's my favorite moisturizer from the drugstore probably, but my favorite to do when I'm applying makeup because it allows my makeup to look perfect over top. So in my eyes, I'm viewing it a lot like a primer. And it is the Inky List Omega Water Cream. This is another one, like you can tell I use this a lot. It looks very scratched up and worn because I'm using this all the time. Wonderful hydrating moisturizer, but has this really elegant gel-like texture that allows the foundation to slide over top of it. For foundation, I considered a few of them, but the one that I ultimately decided on is one that I don't think gets enough recognition, and it is this foundation from the brand Believe Beauty. So I'll start off by saying this is really tricky to get your hands on, which is unfortunate. It's only available at Dollar General, so if you have access to a Dollar General, I would check this brand out, but I do know it's a little bit tricky to get your hands on, but I chose this as my #1 spot because not only is it a phenomenal formula, but it is probably, I'm pretty sure this is the most inexpensive foundation at the drugstore that I can think of. At least that's good. Like I've tried others that are really affordable that I don't enjoy that much. This is a phenomenal formula and it is $5. And this brand, Believe Beauty, is actually a Mesa brand, which is the incubator that started Flower Beauty. They started Kristen S. They've started a lot of brands, so I was unsurprised to see how fantastic this foundation is. I have mine in the shade Porcelain. It's a pretty great match for me. It is the foundation I'm wearing today. This foundation I find to be really adaptable. You can definitely bulk the coverage up or you can thin it out. Today I was going for a little bit less, so I really worked it into my sponge with a pretty thin layer and applied a very small amount of product. And I find that it's very spreadable, which makes it very easy to sheer out and go for a lighter level of coverage. Or again, you can do a few layers and get a little bit more. I also love that it comes in a glass bottle. The packaging is very luxe. The $5 price point is such a steal. I love this one. For concealer, I love the Get Real Serum Concealer from Flower Beauty. I mentioned this as a favorite of the year, I think 2 years back. The shades are a little bit funky. I had a hard time finding my shade in the beginning, but ultimately I landed on the shade Vanilla. But just know, some of them lean like weirdly peachy, like the undertones are a bit strange. What I did today that I've actually been doing more often with my products is I applied it actually to my hand and then picked it up with the sponge and applied it like that. I found like lately I've been really into priming my brush or priming my sponge. So by that I mean really working the product into it so I'm getting an even more even blend and application. So I just kind of applied it to my hand, tapped it on with the sponge. This has a nice medium level of coverage to it. I don't think it looks very heavy. It's also pretty hydrating without being too dewy because I don't generally like a super dewy concealer for my under eye. If it has too much luminosity to it, I think it kind of emphasizes any lines on the under eyes in a way that's pretty unflattering. So I like my under eye concealer to have more of like a satin matte finish to it. And this, once I've paired it with powder, gives me that exact finish. I mean, you obviously could choose not to set it with powder. I think it wears very well like that. Also, I just think this is a really great, very hydrating formula for the under eyes. And for the powder, I chose the e.l.f. Halo Glow Powder. This has been one of my drugstore favorites for a long time now. So like I said, I've got a good mixture in here today. Some of them are newer to me favorites, and some of them are like, you know, these are old reliable. You've heard me talking about this one for years. I've had this for so long that the packaging looks different now. Now the lid is pink, but I have mine in the shade light pink. Don't be deceived by that though, because it's not actually a pink powder. It just has a very subtle cool undertone to it with a little hint of that pink in there, but this is just so finely milled. It's so blurring, feels very luxe and very high-end at a very, very low price point. Moving into cheek products, I did choose a cream and a liquid for most of these because, you know, I didn't want to choose just one bronzer, you know, if you're just into cream or you're just into liquid. So let's start with my cream bronzer recommendation. And I know that you know that it is the Makeup Revolution Ultra Cream Bronzer. This is so creamy and emollient, but not so much that it kind of blends away. Sometimes that can be my problem when cream products just have too much of that texture. They don't want to stay where you're applying them. I don't find that to be the case with this one. It blends out effortlessly. It's high pigment, but it can be sheared out or it can be built up. I just find that it works for any purpose. Like I could really take it any direction. It's been a favorite of mine for a while now, but my newer favorite that I have not stopped talking about is the Butter Bronzers, or the Buttermelt Bronzers from NYX. So this entire line leans a little bit rosy. Not too much, but they do have unique undertones when you compare them to most other bronzers on the market. They have this almost this bit of like blushiness to them. So for that, I find that I can use this as my all-in-one product because it's kind of almost an illuminating bronzer, and don't let that scare you because it's not shimmery, but it adds this life to the skin. And I also think because it has a little bit of that pinkish red quality to it, it gives me the look of blush, it gives me the look of bronzer, it looks like natural sun. It's perfect. My liquid blush recommendation actually surprised me here because I'm looking at all my liquid blushes. I went back and forth on a lot. I initially had a different one chosen, and then I decided I want to go with the e.l.f. liquid blush, which was surprising to me because this was not a standout for me when I first tried it. I was very so-so on it. I thought that the formula was fine, but it has grown on me, and especially in recent months, I have found myself reaching for this so consistently. So this is their Camo blush, and I think what initially turned me off from this a little bit was comparing it to the Rare Beauty blushes, because we know e.l.f. dupes things. This seemingly was supposed to be a dupe for that, and I actually don't find it to be that similar to the Rare Beauty liquid blushes. Yes, it's high-end pigment. It's not quite as pigmented as the Rare Beauty in my opinion, but that's okay because the Rare Beauty ones sometimes can be hard to work with because of their pigment. You know, that's a preference thing. But anyways, this I was finding to be just a lot more dewy and glowy than the Rare Beauty ones, and I didn't find them to be as close of dupes as I was hoping for. And so because of that, I was kind of more so-so on it. But like I said, I found myself reaching for it over and over and over recently. And I think part of what has grown my excitement for this product is a change in application. So before I was applying it, you know, the way I mostly wear the Rare Beauty ones, I dot it onto my cheek, take my sponge, and then tap it in, and that's fine. But that gives me a pretty dewy, pretty glowy look, which is beautiful, but that's not generally my preference. So what I've been doing lately, I'll draw this on the back of my hand. That's been my thing lately. Everything's going on the back of my hand. I haven't applied anything like directly to my face in a while. Like I said, even my concealer, everything is going on the back of my hand. And then I'm priming it with a brush, like really working it into every single bristle and then applying it. And the result is perfection. So, you know, it's partially the technique that I've been really loving, but this blush looks gorgeous. It's very easy to use, great shade range, great price point. The shade that I have is called Peach Perfect. If you're around my skin tone and you're into a nude peach, this is gorgeous. Okay, blush. Honorable mention first, I really considered giving it to the new NYX Buttermelt blushes. I have the shade Soft Pink. I just reviewed this in my last speed review, said it was one of my newest favorites. I love this. This was a very, very, very strong contender, and like I said, it is my honorable mention here, but I still have to give it to the Catrice AirMatte blushes. This is such a good powder blush formula. Honestly, better than probably, I was gonna say most of my high-end blushes, but the answer might be all of them. Like, I reach for this over my high-end blushes. The formula feels so luxe. It is as creamy as it gets. It is pigmented, but it's not overly pigmented to the point of being challenging to use. Like, you're gonna have enough pigment that you can build it and you can get impact, but not so much that you feel like it's not allowing you to blend it out. It's pretty softly pressed into the pan, so you're gonna get a little bit of kick up and a little bit of powder, but I find that kind of lends itself to that higher impact and higher pigment while still offering that blendability. I have the shade Peach Heaven. You've known about my love for peach for a while now, and this is the peach that I'm often reaching to. It's probably my favorite peach blush in my collection, and it's just so great. They also have shimmery blushes in this line. Like, these are the AirMatte, and then they also have a shimmery version. I'm specifically calling out the matte ones. If you're in the US, I know Catrice is a little bit harder to get your hands on now that they're no longer in Ulta. They do sell their products on Amazon or directly from their website, but I know outside of the US, especially in Europe, Catrice is definitely easier to get your hands on. These are phenomenal. Okay, we're going to Catrice's sister brand for highlighter. Now, let me throw out the disclaimer. I'm not a big highlighter person, as you know. I reach for highlighters so infrequently that I'm probably not the person to be giving highlighter recommendations right now, just because I can't say I try so many formulas. I don't feel like I have so much experience with a lot of drugstore highlights. So all that to say, I still did want to offer an option, but I did only decide to mention a powder one. So it's the Essence Pure Nude Highlighter. This has been a favorite for a long time. This is a very popular highlighter, but for good reason. It is beautiful. I have the shade Be My Highlight, which is normally a little bit too light for me. I do have a bit of a summer tan right now. I feel like this is like the tannest I've ever been. It's really not even that tan, but I feel like I'm very tan, and this shade's a little bit better for me right now. But if you do have very fair skin, this is probably gonna be a little bit too deep. It might give you a little bit of a cast if you apply it, but this is a nice, more subtle highlighter formula. It's baked, so I find it to be very refined and smooth on the skin. It's a little bit dry because of that baked formula, but not dry in a way that I view negatively. It's really just like dry in a way that's smoothing and soft. You know what I mean? This is a classic highlight. It's been a favorite for a lot of people for a long time, and for good reason. All right, for brows. I have really streamlined my brows recently. I have accepted that I have sparse eyebrows, and you know, there's not much there. Like, I used to spend a large portion of my getting ready routine. Like, if I were to make a pie chart and I were to show you how much of my makeup routine was allocated towards doing the brows, it was a very big chunk. I was putting in a lot of work to create brows out of nothing, and I've just kind of accepted, like, you know what? I don't have much of an eyebrow, and that's kind of what suits my face. So all that to say, I went with just a brow gel for this, because on most days, I'm just putting a little brow gel through my eyebrows to add a little bit of shape and hold. Maybe I'll run through them with a pencil, and I will say, if you know me, you know my pencil recommendation is the Ulta Beauty Ultra Slim Brow Pencil, but I mostly want to talk about, for like my one recommendation here, I want to talk about this brow gel. So I'm giving two options, so semi-cheating here, but I view these as like the same. They're pretty much identical, so I wanted to mention both in case one is easier for you to get your hands on. So my top recommendation, like the real one, I guess we'll say, is the Essence Thick and Wow Brow Gel, because it's a little bit less expensive, but it's pretty much identical to the NYX Thick It Stick It Brow Gel. Like, Essence tried to dupe them, and they pretty successfully did, so these two together are the recommendation. Whichever one's easier for you to get your hands on, that's the one I recommend going with. What I like about these is that they add some bulk to my brows, they add some pigment, so they're kind of tinting them a little bit, and then they're giving me some light hold. I wouldn't say it's super heavy duty hold, so if you have very thick brows and you're looking for something that's gonna lock them in place all day, this may not be enough for your brow needs, but if you are like myself and you have like 7 eyebrow hairs total and you really just want to bulk them up a bit, I think these are perfect for that. Now for eyes. Okay, first, this is not like an actual official favorite, but I wanted to just throw it in because I know that I'll get questions like, wait, what about an eyeshadow primer? I thought I would mention the Ulta Beauty Matte Eyelid Primer. That being said, I don't feel like I've tested out enough eye primers to have a strong opinion on this. I also don't feel like there are so many of them, but I like this one. I like the Milani one. I used to love the CoverGirl lid lock, but I haven't tried that in years, but my most used is probably this one. But for eyeshadow, this one has been a favorite for a long time. This palette I reached for over most of my high-end palettes. Like, if you were to ask me what eyeshadow palette is in like the most frequent rotation in my collection, it would be this $10 palette from Milani. It is their Gilded Mini. It is a fully matte palette, but if you are like me and you love a matte eyeshadow look, this is perfection. It is just like brown matte shades, which I know may not be for everyone, but if you're like me, you're drooling over this. This is a great palette. I love this. I reach for it so often. You can go a bit more glam. You can go a bit softer. Again, it is all matte shades, but I also like taking this and then pairing it with another eyeshadow that I have if I want a little bit of shimmer. Or even just your highlighter, if you're wearing highlight that day, taking a little bit of that. This is so blendable. I have heard that the palettes in this line, like the Gilded Mini line that have shimmers, are not as good. Like, I've heard the shimmer shadows from them aren't great, but I can't speak to that because I've only had this matte one, and the matte one is perfection. Mascara was a very easy choice. I had to give it to the Lash Extender from e.l.f. This is a tubing formula and it comes in 2 shades. They offer it in a black and a brown. I've tried both. The brown is a very deep brown. It almost translates as black. So if you're looking for a lighter, more like milk chocolatey shade for your brown mascara, this might be a little bit deep. Like I said, it mostly translates as a slightly more subtle version of black, but the formula is phenomenal. It comes off in the very satisfying tubes. Not all tubing mascaras are created equal, okay? Like, I have tried many that don't really tube off, or if they do, it's in a clumpy way and like some of it's staying behind. Not with this one. It is exactly what you are looking for with a tubing mascara in terms of the removal, but also in terms of the wear. There is no smudging, no flaking. It lasts all day. Good length, a little bit of volume. It is my go-to. Let's talk lip products now. Lips were a little bit tricky when it came to lip liner specifically because I like live and breathe for lip liners. It is probably my biggest weakness when it comes to makeup, and I think drugstore lip liners are generally pretty great. I think lip liner, don't get me wrong, I have high-end lip liner favorites that I love and I reach for frequently, but there are a ton of phenomenal lip liners available at the drugstore, so I'm like, do I pick this? Do I pick that? So I actually have 2 honorable mentions, which we will get to. But I decided to go with the e.l.f. Cream Glide lip liners. And what really sold me on this choice is the affordability. These are priced at $2. You cannot beat that. Like, even the other ones I have to mention that are great, they're closer to like $5 to $6, which is still a great price, but $2 from e.l.f. is great. These are very, very, very creamy, which I wasn't sure about at first because I tend to like my lip liner to be a little bit more stiff, but I still find that this gives me great wear even while being creamy, because sometimes that tends to be the trade-off. If a lip liner is too creamy, it's like it's going to blend away and it's going to disappear immediately, but this still has really great wear to it. I feel like I can get still a relatively sharp line even though it is very, very creamy. Wears well, comes in a lot of shades, $2, like what more can you ask for? But I did want to mention my alternatives, like I said. So my favorites for a bazillion years have been the NYX lip liners. These are phenomenal. They offer them in about a million shades. I will say, formula-wise, very, very different. e.l.f. super creamy. The NYX ones are rather dry and pretty stiff, so that could be a downside for some people. I know a lot of people find these to be a little bit too dry. I do kind of like that quality about them in a weird way because I find that it gives me so much precision when I'm applying them, and then they are like on the lips. It's not going to budge. And My biggest recommendation when you're using any lip liner, even if it's like this and it is a little more of a dry formula, apply it on completely dry lips, okay? I know sometimes I watch like lip tutorials and people will apply a lip balm first and then do their lip liner over top. It might feel more comfortable, but you're not gonna get the longevity there. Like, same goes for lip stains, and even more so for lip stains. Like, you wanna apply that when your lips are dry as can be, nothing on them, then you're gonna get more longevity out of them. So, I love the NYX ones as well, but another recommendation. The Rimmel lip liners are phenomenal. Rimmel is now certified cruelty-free, and the shade Cappuccino, oh my gosh, this is such a good like mid-tone brown, cool-toned nude. These, okay, if there's like a lip liner scale, the e.l.f. is the creamiest, the NYX is the least creamy, and the Rimmel is right in the middle. So if you're like feeling like Goldilocks, like not too much, not too that, try the Rimmel. Okay, and for a bullet lipstick, you know, just your traditional lipstick, for me, it's these from Milani. This formula is like a high-end lipstick. This is better than a lot of my high-end lipsticks. This is the Fruit Fetish, or no, it's not Fruit Fetish, that's a different line, but these are the Fetish lipsticks, okay? The shade Secret, which is the one you saw me applying in the demo clips, is a pretty identical dupe to Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talks. If you were looking for a drugstore version, this is the exact same shade. These are a soft matte, almost like powdery finish, but not too dry. They're perfect. They kind of like smooth out the lip line. They last because they are that like slightly more set down matte finish, but it's not too matte where they feel dry. Like, you're still getting the hydration. You're getting the best of both worlds. It's such a standout formula. But another Milani recommendation, okay? For the lip gloss, I want to mention these, the Fruit Fetish lip oils. Phenomenal. These have a really large doe foot, which I love. I like that these offer a little bit of pigment, but they're not too highly pigmented. There's still a good amount of sheerness to this. A wide range of shades. They just expanded it from initially being mostly like reds and pinks to now they offer a lot of different browns and nude shades. And these smell delectable. Every single scent or every single shade has a different scent, which is so fun. So like, I love like grabbing a different one. I'm like, oh, this one smells great. Oh, this one smells great. Like, the one I'm wearing today is the Blackberry Agave. It smells like Blackberry Agave. It is one you might need to reapply relatively frequently. I find that tends to be the trade-off with a lot of these more like modern lip gloss / lip oil type products. They're less sticky than old school lip glosses, but that results in them just not lasting quite as long. So I do want to point that out, but for me, I don't mind that because this is something I'm just like keeping in my purse, reapplying as need be, but I love these. And a setting spray is not something that I wear on a daily basis, but when I need one, the best one I found at the drugstore is the e.l.f. Stay All Night Microfine Setting Mist. This is a very close dupe to the Urban Decay All Nighter Setting Spray. It locks my makeup in, and I like that the mist is very fine. Like, hopefully this will show up on camera, but can you see that? Hopefully you can see that. Sometimes that is the difficult part, in my opinion, when it comes to finding a setting spray in general, but especially at the drugstore. I have had some in the past where I'm like, this is a good formula, but the mist on it is terrible, and then you're getting just droplets all over your face, which essentially makes it unusable. I have had some in the past where I'll like transfer them into a different spray bottle, but like, I don't want to go through all that effort. This has a great mist to it. Those are my favorites at the drugstore. I really hope you found this video helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and I will go ahead and see you in my next one. Bye.